we're going to teach you all about Bitcoin, because really that's the most important thing. And so when I first heard about Bitcoin, I had a lot of preconceptions myself of exactly what it was, how does it work. I thought I knew some stuff, and once I really found out what Bitcoin was all about, my world just completely changed, because Bitcoin can actually revolutionize money as we know it. And so first, I just want to show you, this is a website called Blockchain. It's been up for years, and this is the live Bitcoin network working right now. You can actually see every transaction that's happening in the world with Bitcoin. So if you think about money as we know it right now, whether it's you have US dollars or Malaysian ringgit, or you have euros or pounds or whatever, and we deal with people literally all over the world with every type of currency or fiat money. If you want to send money to somebody around the world or through the internet, you have to use a third party, whether it's a bank or PayPal or a company like Western Union or MoneyGram. We have to use those third parties. And all of those companies, they charge fees. Also, we have to trust those companies. Me personally, I've had bank accounts shut down. I've had PayPal accounts frozen. When they have your money, they're in control. If you look at what just happened in Greece a few months ago, didn't matter how much money you had in the bank. You could have had €1,000, 100,000 euro, €1,000,000, didn't matter. The banks and the government said, hey, we don't know what's going to happen here. We can't let you have your money, so you can only have €60 a day. That's all people were allowed to take out. So we have to trust those entities, and they've proven that at times they cannot be trusted. So the whole idea behind Bitcoin is that we no longer have to trust anyone. It's a complete trustless system. And Bitcoin was created back in January of 2009 by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto. And the whole idea behind it is that you and I can do a transaction with no middleman whatsoever. We don't need anybody in the middle of our transaction. So I can send money to you or to anybody anywhere in the world 24 hours a day, and we don't have to do anything to qualify for an account. So most of the world has no access to any banking whatsoever, but with Bitcoin, every single person in the world now has access to banking through Bitcoin. But again, there is no company, there's no person, there's no government, there's no entity that runs Bitcoin. It's just like the internet. It's just there. It was launched, and now nobody controls Bitcoin. It's its own entity. So let me draw this out here real quick. So here's Bitcoin. It's its own entity, and once it was programmed and launched, now nobody can alter it, control it. Nobody can manipulate it. It's literally perfect. And so the whole idea is that now you and I can do a transaction, any type of money, anywhere in the world, and we don't got to trust anybody. And we can do it for basically no fees. All the other entities that we know of, like banks and PayPal and Western Union, they all charge fees, and they actually charge a lot of fees. So with Bitcoin, no fees. And when I say no fees, there's a little tiny fee, like 3 cents. But you could send $1 million to somebody and it would cost you 3 cents. So it's really nothing. But there does have to be something that powers it. Obviously, all these transactions are moving, so something is powering this. And if you look at all the banks and PayPal and Western Union, all those entities, they all have computers and servers that really run and manage all the transactions. So with Bitcoin, the way it works is there's actually thousands of people with specialized computers that have their computers hooked into the Bitcoin network, and this is what is powering Bitcoin, securing Bitcoin, and verifying all of the transactions. Now this does a couple different things. Number one is it's a distributed network. So what do I mean by distributed network? What I mean is if you knew where PayPal was and you had a rocket, you could shoot your rocket and you could blow up PayPal and PayPal would be gone. But with Bitcoin, it's distributed on thousands and thousands and thousands of computers around the world. So if you knock out one, it doesn't matter because there are still thousands more. If you hack one person, it doesn't matter because there's thousands more. And it takes 51% of the network agreeing on a transaction to make that transaction go through. So one guy being hacked cannot manipulate the network at all. So it's distributed, so it can never be taken down, shut down, nothing by anybody. Then May 22nd of 2010 was the very first transaction with Bitcoin. So a guy in Florida, he offers 10,000 Bitcoin to anybody that would buy him a pizza. And there was a group of these, high-level programmers in a chat room where he offered it. And a guy in London says, no problem, I'll buy you a pizza. What do you want? Where do you want it from? What's their phone number? What's your address? I'll get your pizza sent right over to you. So he sends him a pizza, and that guy receives 10,000 Bitcoin. So now we got a price. You can buy a house, a Ferrari, plane tickets, hotel rooms, coffee, computers, cell phones. You can even buy and sell Bitcoin through Bitcoin ATMs all over the world. You can do anything with Bitcoin. It is value. I don't want to call it money because money, what we think of, is different. We think of dollars and euros and fiat currency, which there's inflation, and basically that our money becomes worth less and less and less and less every year, where Bitcoin isn't like that. So this is special, but you can buy anything, or I should say you can trade it for anything you want in the world right now. In the very beginning, there was really no transactions in here for Bitcoin. There were just none. I mean, it's really nothing. It was just a couple guys sending, little bits of Bitcoin around, really nothing. Then over here, we got our first real one where we start getting transactions sent. I think this is our pizza right in there. But in 2012, that's when Bitcoin started really taking off. Some third-party applications started coming out, and now there's actually hundreds of apps for Bitcoin that make it easy to use Bitcoin. But you can see now the growth trend that's happening. So this line right here, this is 100,000 daily transactions. We're over that line. Now 120,000 daily transactions. We're over that line every day now. Next it's going to go to 140, 160, 200, 500. It's going to keep going up. It's the trend. You can save so much money using Bitcoin. It's so much easier to use Bitcoin. There are so many benefits. Literally, we could be here for the next 3 days talking about all the different things that you can use with Bitcoin. But the first thing I wanted to show you was the growth trend that's happening. This is going forward, not backwards. So the next thing I want to show you is Bitcoin venture capital. All right, so Bitcoin is kind of like the internet in the early days. In the beginning of the internet, it was actually pretty complicated. There wasn't much you could do with it. You could send emails, you could play solitaire, but not very much that you could do. I mean, they had some spreadsheets, on the computers, and you could email that spreadsheet to somebody, but it wasn't much. And people would say, well, why would I spend a couple $1,000s on a computer to send you an email. I could just call you. But there were people that saw the vision, and investors saw the vision, and people started investing into internet companies. And now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of companies that make it easy to use the internet and fun to use the internet. So really it's the same thing with Bitcoin. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of startup companies that is making it easy to use Bitcoin and help people save money using Bitcoin over the normal currency that we're used to right now. So this is venture capital money being invested into the Bitcoin ecosystem. These are companies that make it easy to use Bitcoin. And these are the names of the companies, what they do, how much money they're raising, and who's giving them the money. What I think is even more important than, the individual companies and individual investors and how much money is really the trend. And you can see there's a lot of companies raising money. And this is just public money. This doesn't count individual programmers that are building their own platforms for Bitcoin. And there's probably somewhere between 20 and 30,000 developers worldwide working on platforms for Bitcoin, haven't even been released yet. Probably 80 to 90% of everything on this list they've raised money for haven't even been released yet. So in 2012, about $2 million was invested. It was actually in these first three companies right here. 2013, $95 million was invested. 2014, last year, $361 million. So far this year, $481 million. I actually think that's not completely up to date. I actually think that number's a lot higher. But we're talking about $940 million. We're getting close to $1 billion being invested by very, very rich, smart people into Bitcoin startup companies. So if you look, on your own, again, just go to CoinDesk, go to Price and Data, and then go to Venture Capital, and go through these names on here. You're going to see names like Sir Richard Branson, and right here, BitPay, Sir Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines, and also Virgin Galactic. You'll also see the the New York Stock Exchange. It's a 200-year-old company, the New York Stock Exchange. For the first time in the history of the New York Stock Exchange, they just invested money into a company that's not a publicly traded company. And they were a big part of this $75 million, total of $106 million that Coinbase just raised. There's also USAA Bank, huge bank in the U.S. BBVA, largest bank in Spain, one of the top 5 in all of Europe. These are the people investing these hundreds of millions of dollars. It's the world's richest, smartest people. They know where Bitcoin is going. That's why they're getting so heavily invested into this. So what I see is a trend. We have about 10 million people in the world right now that have a Bitcoin wallet and use Bitcoin. That's nothing. This can go to 100 million people, 500 million people, 1 billion people. Think about how many times a day you use money, whether it's to buy a cup of coffee and a donut, or pay for lunch, or pay your phone bill, pay your rent, buy a plane ticket. We probably use money 10 to 20 times a day, every single day. If we get 1 billion people using Bitcoin, that would be 10 to 20 billion transactions daily. Right now, we're at like 120,000 transactions daily. This is the beginning of the beginning of the beginning.